Behind me right now is Corey's car in the shop, the Ferrari powered FRS. I know when we were building it, we didn't really get to go over all the steps that we were doing as we were going along. So right now I just want to make a video covering everything that's on the car, all the work, all the custom stuff, all the stock Ferrari or even GM or other parts, and just give you a full walk around of how we built the car and what's all on it, so you guys can stop asking me questions. Just kidding, guys. I know, not you guys. You guys are cool. TikTok, those guys ask way too many questions over and over again, asking if it has a Ferrari motor. It obviously has a Ferrari motor. It's not an LS with a Ferrari intake manifold, as somebody accused us of. Let's just start off. We got a Ferrari F136S engine. That is a Ferrari engine out of a Maserati Quattroporte. So it is built by Ferrari, designed by Ferrari, installed in a Maserati. So it's both a Ferrari engine and a Maserati engine, depending on who you ask and how angry they want to be. It has a Ferrari California intake manifold up top that's sticking out of the hood, running 2 throttle bodies, one of which came off a Maserati, one of which came off a Ferrari, and they're exactly the same, and a lot of other parts under the hood, which I'll show you right now. There is a lot of custom work under the hood of this just to fit a mostly stock F136 engine into a Scion FRS and keep all the factory stuff under the dash. Now, the first thing you might notice is the fact that this intake manifold sticks forward and doesn't go backwards like Ryan Turk's GT4586. That is because this is a Ferrari California intake, and a California is a front engine rear-wheel drive car, as opposed to Ryan Turk's mid-engine. Well, you know, his engine's up front, but his engine came out of a mid-engine Ferrari, which would put the engine back there behind the driver. And that's why the intakes go back and then do whatever they do. I don't really know. So we modified the Ferrari California intake to take port fuel injection, because Californias are direct injected. And this engine isn't set up for that, and we aren't set up to tune it or anything. And that's way above my pay grade. So we used ICT billet fuel injector bungs welded into the California intake, factory Maserati fuel rails and fuel injectors. Those kind of just bolted right up. And these injector bungs are actually made for LS injectors, and they were just the correct size, so that was perfect. Then moving on, we got, these are actually the Maserati wire covers, I guess. They're aluminum. They said Maserati here, but I actually shaved that off when we did another coat of wrinkle paint on them. Just kind of cleaned it up a little bit and hid the fact that it's actually a Maserati. Audi R8 coil packs, they fit right in. So they fit in nicely. They do leak just a little bit of water past the seal. It does get to be a problem sometimes if the car sits out in the rain, but the car is mostly garage kept, so not a big deal. Then moving down, we got Ferrari California exhaust headers, and those are stock headers unmodified. We just put the left side on the right side on the left. So you can see that's why they come forward like that. And then the exhaust does a quick like loop, whoop, whoop, to go up and over the subframe, because the subframe had little exhaust notches from the factory for the boxer engine. And you'll also notice, speaking of the boxer engine, that everything is much more accessible. You can do a spark plug job on this in 0 time, as opposed to the boxer engine where it's a total bitch. Then moving on, we actually use stock fuel lines. This middle one is the vent, but these two are the stock fuel lines. One of them went to the port fuel rails on the boxer engine, and then the other one went to the high pressure fuel pump, because the factory FA20 was both direct injected and port injected. So that was kind of nice. It kind of worked out well for us. In here we're running a Sickie clutch master cylinder adapter and everything with the Willwood clutch master cylinder. Hello Corey, this is Corey. He owns the car.
I'm working
Twitch Master Flex, he's working on a piece of shit and he's angry about it.
It's GM. Ferrari's better than GM. Yes.
Just kidding.
This is easier to work on.
Speaking of GM, we have an adapter kit to go to a GM T56 transmission. It's actually an LT1 T56 transmission that came out of like a 90s Camaro, and it doesn't like to go into reverse. So if you see Corey at a car show struggling to get his car into reverse, that's why.
Don't grind my gears, I'm already grinding them myself.
Coming forward, we got these two vibrant 3.5 inch, maybe? I believe that's 3.5 inch aluminum tubes coming down to nice little K&N air filter sitting down there. Looks really cool when the bumper's off. We got an Earl's oil cooler with dash 16 fittings. for the dry sump oil system. Since this is an F136S, that is a factory dry sump engine. You know, there's no oil pan sump. It's all flat on the bottom, which made it really nice to fit this in here because we didn't have to worry about front or rear sump clearance. We just put it in where it fit and then had to run these massive oil lines in the car. Now you can see these massive oil lines. We have one right there which goes under the intake manifold to something, I don't remember exactly. Then down to the front, oil cooler, boom, comes up, drops down through the firewall. And then those actually come into the car. One comes in the car there, the other one is going out the car, sort of lower, like on the floor area, goes back. We have a valve there. This one is the one going to the oil pump, which is on the bottom of the engine. Not gonna be able to show you that. And then right behind the passenger seat right here, we have the dry sump oil tank by Peterson. I think it holds about 3 gallons of oil or so. And then other than that, we got a mostly stock interior. Factory radio works, factory climate control works, AC's not hooked up. Pretty basic setup on the inside. Honestly, we're trying to keep like the whole street car vibe with me and Corey's cars. Corey also just has a harness bar, no roll cage like my Viper Swap Z right there. And then this right here is the wide body kit, which is off right now because we are currently going to be painting our cars. So got to tear all the vinyl off and get everything ready. Now for wheels, he went with Blitz 03s because they're his favorite wheels ever. We rebuilt these. They're 17 rears, I think are 10.5, fronts are 9.5. So pretty good. They fit really nice with the wide body and they hold a good tire for the, you know, 400 or so horsepower that the Ferrari Swap is running. And then back here we got a Vibrant oil catch can, which is not currently hooked up. That is the overflow for the dry sump oil tank that you can see right there. Pretty simple battery box, has some wiring that we still need to clean up, but we'll get there. Rear strut brace is actually out of a Acura Integra or something, maybe a Civic, I don't know. Up here, we got the BCL wing, but Corey might be switching it off of the BCL wing, maybe going to a 326 power or something. If y'all got any suggestions on what looks good on a FRS, let me know. Back here, basic rear bash bar with a jack point. You can see the exhaust right down here. Dual 2.5-inch exits. Adjustable lower control arms, adjustable toe arms. Those are the sway bar bracket braces you can see there, along with diff mount braces, I believe. Not a solid mounted diff, but just kind of helps solidify it just a little bit. And then that's a factory LSD, not welded or anything, just unmodified. And then moving out, we got drive shaft shop, 800 horsepower, maybe 1,000 horsepower axles. We did break one of these axles during just like a simple burnout or something, so we didn't want that happening in the future, especially bringing it to drift events out of state, stuff like that. You don't want to deal with problems because it's not fun. Now, as you see by the big flat out suspension windshield banner that he's got, he's running flat out suspension coilovers. They are really nice pieces. They come with iBox springs. I don't remember all the exact specs, but they are some of the nicer coilovers we've dealt with. And I've even got nice iBox for my Porsche there, and some KW V3s on another car of mine. And I really like these pieces, so definitely check those out. Standard STI gold Brembo brakes. These bolt on actually like really easily onto the FRS BRZ chassis. I think they look, you know, they make it look a lot better just filling in the wheel like this. Even though it's a drift car and big brakes are pretty useless, I still just like the look of big brakes. They look real good. You can also faintly see down there, he's running a Park Shop Max Pro big angle kit. So it's the lower control arms, the knuckles, tie rods, all that stuff. And it gets pretty good amount of steering angle, and you know, it's a nice kit. I like it. It does the job. Then as far as the engine goes, another thing I want to point out is this right here is a factory Ferrari Maserati power steering pump, and it is heavily modified. It's been kind of a pain in the ass because the FRS runs electronic or electric power steering. So on the steering column under the dash, there's this electric motor that actually goes around the steering shaft, and that's what provides the power steering for the car. So we had to get rid of the power steering pump, and in doing so, we have the alternator that sits up there in a location that I don't like. I'm gonna change that eventually. Then right here we have an idler. Then we have the crank. We needed a way for the belt to go from the crank right there up and around to the alternator without contacting all the engine stuff back there. After a few tries, we got this figured out. It uses an LS idler pulley and a custom adapter that I turned down on the lathe, and it uses the body of the factory power steering pump, and basically, yeah, it just gives us a second idler pulley along with that one right there, which actually might be the tensioner, and it gets the belt up and around and over, and it's worked great so far, hasn't had any issues. So now back up inside the car, actually one thing I forgot is we're running an Ms3 Pro ECU, which is down in this area right here. So it's an Ms3 Pro Ultimate, a drive-by-wire DBW X2 drive-by-wire controller, and some relays and fuses and stuff is all down in this little pocket right here. And that is to help us, or to run the engine, and drive-by-wire controller is to control dual drive-by-wire throttle bodies with the factory FRS throttle pedal. So that was one thing we really wanted to keep because drive-by-wire is just really nice to have. And with these things sticking out of the hood, we really didn't want cables, especially dual cables, because that would just be pretty ugly. So we got it working, and it works great. Haven't had any issues since we got it all dialed in. Overall, the car is, it needs a little bit of just kind of touch-ups here and there, kind of figuring out little bugs once we get it on the track and everything. Other than that, things ripping. You know, it looks a lot better with the wide body on it, obviously. We weighed the car. It came out to like right around 2,800 pounds complete as it sits with everything on it. So that was really cool. It weighed 20 pounds more than a factory FRS did. People were bitching about the fact that we added a ton of weight, which we really didn't. Probably weighs less than the car weighed with the turbocharged FA20 that was in it prior. She's running, she's driving. If you got any other questions, let me know, and I will try to answer them as best as I can. And I hope I covered everything, because there's a lot to talk about, a lot of stuff on this thing, but I think I got it all. So just kind of giving you a little walk around here. If you want to see any details, then just check it out.